Hi guys, welcome back to my corner of the internet and YouTube's, and it is a beautiful sunny day outside, which means I'm not going outside, I'm staying inside. Me and sun do not mix. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about this guy right here. I just finished her. I have date markers in here. So When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. I just finished this 3 days ago, which feels like a very long time. But once again, just like in The Wolf, I do have my notes. I think I'm just going to do reviews with my notes from now on, because otherwise I just forget things and I ramble. So let's just stick to doing the notes for now, so I don't go off on a tangent and just babble incessantly for 15. Okay, so first and foremost, I've seen a lot of people that I follow on YouTube and on Book Talk and on Bookstagram recommending this book, but not really talking much about the plot, not really talking about what it's about, just saying it's a romantasy and there's dragons and it's cool. And this is no hate to them. I'm obviously taking their recommendations because these are people whose opinions I trust. So I did pick up the book just based on the opinions of those booktubers and those bookstagrammers, but I wanted to know a little bit more going into it. And I think other people are probably going to be of the same opinion. They don't want to spend money on a book going in completely blind, or maybe you do and you're just basing it on recommendations like I did. But getting into this book, I could tell it was going to be a favorite. The world building alone, it feels really different from everything that I've been reading, at least recently. Even if the characters themselves and their archetypes do feel familiar and not redundant, just familiar, but it's not in an annoying way. It's just in an, oh, this makes sense based on their character arc kind of way, which is nice. And they're also adults. So we're following a king, we're not following a prince, we're not following a knight, we're following a king as our male main character, and we're following an adult woman as our female main character, which is also very nice for a change of pace. I am an adult reader. I don't always want to read about 17 and 18-year-olds, so this was a nice little change for me. At least they're not in their 30s or 40s, but they are. All right, so time to start getting into the notes. And just to start off at the beginning, this is a chonker. Like, she is a chonker of a romantasy book. Definitely romantasy. She's about 700 pages. I think 690 pages. Is Smart Guy in the background? Yeah, Smart Guy's in the background. And I read it slowly just so I could savor it more, because I was really enjoying it a lot. But it is a fast-paced read. It is very quick. If you're someone that just wants to get through the book quickly, you're not going to be reading this for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. If you're a faster reader, I don't want to say this is a beginner's fantasy book. It's not. If you've never read fantasy, if you've never read romantasy, maybe don't start with this one. It's an amazing book, but this isn't like a romantasy for beginners sort of book. Like Throne of Glass, I think, is a beginner's romantasy book. It kind of eases you into it, but this is heavy. I did skip over the glossary. There is a glossary at the beginning of the book. I only referred to it twice throughout the whole story, to refer back to something called Parchment Larks, and also to refer back to one of the gods or one of the creators, but I did not skip over the prologue. Before I even talk about the prologue, there are trigger warnings in the back of this book, which I appreciate. I know some books have been doing that in the beginning, but this one did it towards the end. Let me see if I can find it now that I'm talking about it. Probably not gonna be able to find it. So yeah, we do have a page of trigger warnings. I'm probably not gonna be able to zoom in, but I think that was a nice little touch, because some people care about that. I'm not particularly sensitive, but I know some people have trauma and they don't want to deal with certain things. But getting into the glossary of this book, I did skip the glossary. I did not skip the prologue, and do not skip the prologue. Sometimes you can. This is not a book where you can do that. You're going to learn about the history and the magic system of this world, which is kind of important. We learn, of course, that there are dragons. We go into the book knowing that upon their death, they soar up into the heavens and they essentially fossilize in the atmosphere, becoming moons, hence When the Moon Hatched. And we learn about the elemental creators that can communicate with some people. These are essentially the gods. There's earth, wind, air, fire, and something else, and water. And these are the elemental creators. They communicate with some people, not all people. And this also creates the magic system in the world, and also sort of a class system as we get further into the story. But that's in the story itself. That's not in the prologue, but that is our magic system. Our magic system is based on these creator elementals or elemental gods. Also in the prologue, we're learning for the first time in a very long time that one of these moons, one of these fossilized dragons, has fallen to Earth. And that hasn't happened in a very long time. And that is our prologue. Now getting into the story. I don't think anything in here is spoilery, but this all happens very early on in the beginning of the book. We're immediately introduced to our female main character, Rave. I believe that's how you say her name, and she is a rebel with a cause. She's part of a group of rebels, and she acts as their assassin. She's very good at what she does. Think Aelin, but not as snarky. She has attitude. She's very dark. She's very good at what she does, and she loves what she does. All of her kills feel justified. She's not just going around stabbing random people on assignments, but this group of rebels, they essentially own her in a way. She doesn't mind what she has to do. She does love what she has to do. She does agree with the cause. She's just not a big fan of being controlled and told what to do. And also early on, we meet our romantic interest, Khan. I think we meet him in the second chapter. And he is not a prince. As I said, he is a king from another land, and he has the reputation of not being that nice a guy. We don't go in knowing he's a king. This isn't spoilery. We do find out who he is very early on in the book. But he doesn't have a great reputation. He is a murderous tyrant. He killed his father. He's a very cruel ruler according to his reputation. And he just sees Rave, and he is immediately just drawn to her. And when he gets too close, like he starts following her around basically, she essentially says, back off or I'll kill you. And she would, but something is kind of keeping her from killing him. She probably thinks he's hot too, and she's just like, maybe you're too hot for me to kill, so but back off or I will kill you. I'll be stabbing you, and it won't be fun for us. Oh my god, these edits must be so weird. Rave gets implicated into this very tragic situation that in the beginning of the book that starts her off on this personal quest for revenge. Personal quest for revenge. And that revenge just stays out of reach for one reason or another throughout the entire book. But this quest that she's on does kind of put her and Khan, who is our male main character, I don't know if I said his name, back together. And meanwhile, he's on his own quest. And he is collecting moon plume shards. And these are pieces of that fossilized dragon that fell to Earth. So he's collecting the shards of this dragon. And watching the romance build between these two, it can be frustrating. But it also feels very natural when you start learning their backstory, and that builds throughout the book. I personally wanted to slap Rave because she was being she was being way too cold. Like, we understand why she's cold, we understand why she's standoffish, we understand what her priorities are, but and I know this was the point. I know this was intentional, but there were times when you just wanted to slap her and tell her to just let this man in because he obviously cares for her. He's obviously being genuine. But he obviously respects her. And she obviously wants him too. So sometimes I was just like, just let your guard down. But that was just not something that happened. Khan, also as the male main character, he is not cringy at all. He is not a Chad. He is probably my favorite romantasy love interest that I have read in a while, and that includes Rysand. I say Rysand. That includes Rysand, so that's a big deal. The world building in this book is amazing. Who's in the background now? Revan's in the background. It's amazing. There are tons of new creatures and cultures and environments. You're not going to stay in one city. You're going to be going to different lands. You're going to be meeting different people. You're going to be seeing different creatures, including different dragons. You're not seeing just one type of fire-breathing dragon. Personally, I fell in love with something called parchment larks, and I just think they're so imaginative, and it's so different from something I've read before. Even the different species of dragons, even though we've all seen as many species of dragons, if you're a fantasy reader, that you think possible, they just feel really special, and they do feel really well imagined, especially after I was just reading the last dragon book I read was of course Fourth Wing, and we love those dragons, but this just feels different. So again, I just want to say I did want to slap Rave a couple times because of the chip on her shoulder and the no, I can't love you because everyone I love dies and I'm on my quest for revenge. It did get a little killjoy at some points. I did want to slap her, especially towards the end, towards the last 200 pages, and we start moving very quickly in these last 200 pages. So it really, her position really did start to agitate me at that point. Speaking of the ending, it ties really well like the epilogue. It ties perfectly with the beginning of the story. Do not skip out on the epilogue. There is a twist and a reveal at the end, and it is something I kind of suspected, but it's not something that we see a lot in romantasy. I've personally never seen it in romantasy. I am sure it exists, but it's not something I've seen. So I was expecting it, but because it's something I haven't seen, I was just, I was like, did that really happen? Is this really a thing? And there is a huge cliffhanger, and I want this second book now. I did check on Sarah Parker's Instagram, and she is already writing the second book, but I can't wait for the follow-up. The cliffhanger is nuts. All right, for me, this is straddling between a 4.5 and a 5-star read. I did immediately think this was going to be straight up a 5-star when I started reading the book, but just because Rave's like quest for revenge and her personal issues just annoyed me so much. They annoyed me so much sometimes that I did bring it down a little. And also the concept of time and how time works. Maybe that's on me. Maybe it's in the glossary and I just, like, I know what the slumber is. I know what the aurora phases are, but I have no idea of how time works. I have no idea how time passes and measured and how people are aging. But the concept of time in this book really, like, I'm still not sure about that. So those are the only things that keep this from immediately being a 5-star. But based on the world building, the story, the imaginativeness, the character building, aside from Rave's chip on her shoulder, this is obviously leaning more towards a 5-star than a 4.5. A lot of people say that if you like Throne of Glass, you'll like such and such book. If you like ACOTAR, read this book. If you like, but this is the first time I 100% agree with the statement I'm making. If you like Throne of Glass, if you like Aelin, you will like this book. You will like this story. This is the first time I've ever agreed with that sort of, if you like this, read this. So if you like Throne of Glass, I immediately say you will like When the Moon Hatched. If you are into tough female main characters with hidden, mysterious, tragic backstories and very attractive, muscular, tattooed, tragic men as male main characters, definitely pick up this book. I will be looking forward to the second. I should probably go over the glossary to make sure time isn't explained better, but just look at this glossary. And the chapter headings also are beautiful in this book. There are minor illustrations. They don't take you out of the story. They're just kind of helpful. And I'm seeing if I can find one quickly. Here we go. Just little illustrations, not full page illustrations. They just bring the story along. But I will say, I recommended this for romantasy lovers, not new romantasy lovers. This might throw you off a little bit, but I did love this. The spicy scenes were nice. They were nice. But anyway, 4.5 to 5 stars. I'm still flipping between the two only because of the concept of time and only because Rave did agitate me. My cat is starting to act up, so I'm going to go. But thank you for hanging out with me, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks.